Hey, Holly.
Hey, Dave.
How are you today?
Doing great today. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. I got my new HD camera, so you can see everything that's going on in here. You like the look?
I see everything. I'm not going to point it out. We'll let anybody who's watching see all your new stuff. But hey, welcome to the What Difference Does It Make podcast.
We always forget that. Yes, we are the What Difference Does It Make podcast. Thank you for joining. So we are still counting down these songs that were played on KROQ, the radio station in Los Angeles, back in the day. 1984 is what we're looking at. And we're counting down the top 106.7 songs. And this week we got 70 to number 61. And I think there's some surprises on there. And so we're going to go into it. And as we've done, we're inviting people into our neighborhood. And let's see, who's in the neighborhood today? And it looks like, oh yeah, look at that. It's Daddy Russ Borris. He's the music director at WFUV in New York, don't you know? And
hello.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Hi, Russ.
How are you doing?
We're doing great. Russ has a show called The Alternate Side, which is heard on Fridays from 6 to 9. Is that correct? Or wait, I'm sorry. I'm on Pacific time.
Your time, so that's fine.
Yes.
That works.
When can you hear your show?
Every Friday night in New York City, 9 to midnight.
Very good. 3 hours of, it seems like you play whatever the heck you like. Is that
Pretty
fair?
Much. Yeah. I mean, at the heart of it, it's kind of an indie rock show, but it harkens back to classic alternative, and we'll work in some hip hop. We play a lot of electronic music as well. And if the mood strikes, something I like to call a curveball will happen, 3, 4, 8 times over the course of the show. Yeah. So you never know what really could happen. Got a Valentine's show, for instance. The jazz singer may or may not make an appearance to give you an idea of what the show is all about.
As well he should. You always tweet out some little teasers of what's going to be on the show. Last week, you had a poll of what was your favorite Pixies album. Was it Surfer Rosa or Doolittle? Was that the other one? Okay. I don't believe you chimed in.
Well, I sometimes do, and I sometimes don't. Every now and again, I'll throw a little poll out there just because I feel like it's interesting and it's necessary. I've done it with, let's say, Let It Be and Tim from The Replacements 3 or 4 different times just to take the temperature ever again and to keep the people honest, to be, really. So, but if we want to circle back to the Pixies, it's Doolittle.
Really? Okay, so was that your first time you had heard the Pixies? Was Doolittle? Did you listen to Surfer Rosa?
I just found Doolittle by the album that I connected with a little bit more strongly.
Okay. I think it was probably because it was the first time I heard the Pixies, and when I heard Gigantic, and I think my head exploded. Like, oh, this is something amazing. So I think that was like the first time I've discovered the Pixies. And I think that was like so thrilling to hear something so cool.
This is why the poll goes out, so we can have this conversation and try to engage with the audience. See, look at that. Social media. It's amazing.
It is. It's fun. Russ is big with the gifts and the polls.
Russ will revolve more around Depeche Mode and Blancmange.
Talk about Depeche Mode. I will talk about Depeche Mode all day. So that's good by me.
Well, okay.
Maybe Russ and I need our own Depeche Mode podcast because I can too.
I don't know. Okay, Russ, Depeche Mode or the Smiths?
Oh boy. I like how you put me on the spot there. If you really, I think because that window of the Smiths is so small, that the impact is so great and those records are all so strong, but the catalog in terms of Depeche Mode, I might edge there. As much as I'm the Nas and Smiths guy, I might actually say that the Depeche Mode catalog as a whole holds just a little bit more of a place in my heart.
Interesting. And then what if we tossed in the Morrissey catalog with the entire Depeche Mode catalog? So
Are you going to ask me which kid do I love more next?
Okay. Baby steps. Here we go.
Okay. Let's just take
Okay,
it easy.
fine. All right, fine. I'm backing away there. Fine. We will accept your answer.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah, I know where you are. How dare you, though? I mean, we are. What difference does it make? Okay.
How about that?
I'm going to ask you, Holly, Depeche Mode or The Cure?
Ooh.
See, yeah.
There's some daggers flying.
Oh, I know. It's hot and heavy now.
I'm going to, you know better than to ask me, when it comes to stuff like, it's easy. The Smiths and Depeche Mode, that's an easy one. But The Cure, I'm not a good decision maker. When you for my favorite something, I have to give you a list because I can't have one favorite.
You were looking for a poll to run. There you go.
Yeah, right. Okay. We'll find out what the people like. Actually, it's funny. I heard Letter to Elise last week on your show. You know what? Listening to it, it reminds me, this could be like a Taylor Swift song. It's so angsty and just like listening to it now, like, that was kind of hard on your sleeve type of thing. It's like, yeah, you know what? I bet you that could have been. And that was a huge pop song back in the day. I'm sure.
Kind of a lot of angsty songs in that catalog.
I don't know.
This might be the first time, though, that I've heard a Robert Smith and Tay-Tay comparison.
Right? All right. Well, I was just listening. I just happened to be listening today, so it's fresh in my mind. So there you go.
Fair enough.
No, but the main reason I brought you along today is because of this 10-song chunk of KROQ songs that we're going to discuss. And so we're going to do 70 to 61. And the main reason is because I know you're a huge Hall & Oates fan. I mean, it's all about Hall and Oates. There's no separating the two.
Definitely not.
Okay, so number 70 on our KROQ list is Out of Touch, which is kind of crazy that this alternative radio station played this song, although it did have the remix on it. What are your thoughts of the Out of Touch remix?
Well, I think you can't disassociate yourself from the video because Daryl Hall's cheetah suit is legendary.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not just completely hone in on that through the entire thing? But I mean, let's face it, Hall & Oates, I know it all started in the 70s. They were kings of MTV in the 80s. And, those videos mattered, those songs, every single one of them. I mean, do you want to go Private Eyes? You want to hand clap with me right now? Because you want to. I mean, you're hand clapping in your mind just when you think about it. So, Out of Touch, it's a great pop song. It's a great pop song. I could never really get past Daryl Hall's need to always kind of nervously bop when he's like dancing when he's lip syncing. And it's just like, dude, just like settle for a moment because he's just shaking the whole time. Doesn't make it any less awesome, but just another observation.
Well, back in the 80s, people didn't really know what to do when the camera was on.
Dancing.
Yeah. I mean, we actually, we talked to Mark Goodman last year, and they had no idea what to do when the camera was on them. We're like, and he brought up the idea, hey, why don't we walk around the studio for a while? And then it was just like, it looked like we were going for a hike or something. We were just always moving, and it's just like, okay, let's have some choreography here or something. And so I guess they just turned the camera on Daryl Hall and like, all right, do the magic that you do. Apparently that magic is moving uncomfortably.
Yeah. And let's face it, Oates is there for the stash.
He does bring the stash. The song was interesting that it not only was a number one song, pop hits, but it also was number 24 at the Hot Black Singles chart and number 8 on the adult contemporary charts and number 1 on the dance charts. So, I mean, it was a crossover song. It hit all formats. Everyone loved Hall & Oates. Kings
of MTV. Everybody loves Hall & Oates.
Holly?
I'm thinking about how to say this. I think I might be a bigger fan now in retrospect. I mean, I was always a fan. You always sing, their big sing-along songs, but their look was very appropriate. I mean, when you think about the bands that you love, that we loved from MTV, Duran Duran and, that ilk, and you look at Hall & Oates, their look did kind of fit right in with the mullets and the, but the music to me isn't the same. I mean, it's 80s and it's very, to me, it's very symbolic of the 80s. But the look, I never really thought about it because I categorize them differently than I do Duran Duran and some of the other like new wave bands. But watching this video, this was awesome. And the drum, I hadn't seen that in many years when they were, whatever they were doing. They weren't dancing.
This was state-of-the-art instrumentation right here.
It was like Alice in Wonderland, but in a drum or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the early days, I know we're really focused on Out of Touch, but the very early days of Hall & Oates, you go back to, Abandoned Luncheonette and even previous, it's actually Flight of the Conchords. It really is. It's just like...
All right. Walk me through this. Hold on a second.
No. Take the humor out and just focus on just the two guys kind of just playing acoustic and stuff. side by side. Do an A/B on some of that stuff. Okay. You'll make the parallels.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So I can't do Robert
That's an
Smith.
assignment. Yeah.
Robert Smith and Tay Tay is not allowed, but however, the Hall Oates and Fly of the Conchords is allowed. Is that what you're
guest? So yes.
Okay.
The guest is always right.
You're right. Okay. You're right. You're always right. This was kind of the end, however, of Hall Oates because they had one more hit off Big Bam Boom. By the way, did you have this record, Big Bam Boom? Yes. You did? Can you spell Method of Modern Love real quick? Let's hear you do it.
METHODOFLOVE.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. But you got to sing it.
Like next I was waiting for him to go, A to Z backwards.
I remember when that song came out, I was like, what are they spelling? What's going on? This is going
I didn't sing it.
I know, but
as a matter of fact, I didn't want to get it wrong.
I know, but I just always remember that. And actually that was their final top 10 hit. They had Everything Your Heart Desires, hit number 3 in 1988. And then that was it for the band.
Didn't So Close.
Oh, So Close.
Make something?
Yes, you did. So Close. Appropriately titled because it was number 11 on the top 10 list back in 1990. Do you know who produced that song, by the way?
I don't recall.
That was John Bon Jovi.
Is that right?
That is correct. I would not steer you wrong here. Some Hall Oates trivia for the Hall Oates fanatic. By the way, where were you listening to? Where'd you hear Out of Touch in 1984? Where was Russ Borris?
MTV. Yeah.
It was exclusive. So you didn't. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, at the time, I think we had just gotten cable for the first time. We had moved to a new town and got cable, and that was like kind of a whole other experience. And so that particular summer, I think, was watching a lot of MTV and learning a lot of music. I listened to that was kind of the beginning, and then also I was always a radio kid, so I would check out the local stations and stuff like that. Obviously, at that time, one or two Jersey stations were top of mind. Z100 was super big, PLJ in New York. So those were the ones that we listened to on the radio. But between that and MTV was kind of the focus on the music.
Did you have a radio in your room? Were you one of those guys always listening?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And definitely one of those kids that, it seems like such a cliche, but yeah, I did have the radio kind of late nights, blankets, when the lights are out and still listening to something or another. It just always connected with me.
Listening to Mets games, I also would assume.
Oh, sure. A little bit of the Mets games. Yeah.
When I moved to New York, it always shocked me. Like when I was 11 o'clock at night, there'd be a baseball game on. Like, why is this on? And then I realized, oh, wait a second. They're playing in Los Angeles. And
well, here we curse that.
Of course.
Was the worst thing when they do the West Coast Strip and we're like, wait a minute, this is going to be 9-10 days out there. And all these games are starting at 10:30.
Yeah.
It's like, you're killing me.
Right. Once I lived in New York for a while, I understood why there's an East Coast bias is because it's too late for everyone to follow teams on the West Coast.
Hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's keep moving along here. We're, oh my gosh, number 69, Depeche Mode, Everything Counts. What are your first thoughts on this?
It's perfect. I mean,
a perfect song.
I mean, I've look, you're not going to get me to say a bad word about Depeche Mode. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
I think Martin Gore is overlooked at times. Mm-hmm. So for me, like wherever he can take a little, shine a little light on him, it's always a win. But the dynamic of those two guys is just ridiculous and always has been. I mean, the strength of those, two at the front, him and Dave Gahan, it's just a band that has always resonated for me. And, everyththing counts in large amounts. He always has something to say. Martin Gore always has something to say.
It's the beginning of Yuppies and that whole scene. What was the Michael Douglas movie? Why can't I think of it right now? Wall Street, of course.
Wall Street.
Yeah, that whole scene. I'm sure that was kind of their observation. But inside the song, there's xylophone and there's what is that that thing where you blow it? It's kind of like a keyboard that you blow into. Do you know what that's called?
He said they were experimenting with new whatever you call them, instruments at the time, synclavier,
Sinclair. It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
For some reason, like the saxophone, there was a lot of xylophone and marimbas in the 80s. Do you have a favorite song off the top of your head? I know maybe you think Love Plus One, or do you have a song that sticks out? Maybe a Love Cats, perhaps?
No, actually, For me, it's actually more recent. I really like Extraordinary Machine from Fiona Apple, which was a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of lovely, and to not sound cheesy about it, but I mean, it's the way the instrumentation works there and the production on it is just really nice. And there was something about that song that always stuck out, and that does have a little bit of a xylophone there. Sorry to go off 80s.
No, that's
in that example, but that was the one that kind of came to mind.
No, that's all good.
We often go off 80s. We do.
We do all the time.
Admittedly.
By the way, Holly, what is your favorite xylophone song? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say Depeche Mode. No.
Favorite xylophone song?
I mean, off the top of your, I can name Gone Daddy Gone. We had some Looking for Clues, Hold Me Now, Love My Way. There you go. I bet you Love My Way.
Okay.
All right. I know Holly well.
Yeah. I don't even have to, you can answer all the questions.
Okay.
You can ask me and answer the questions too.
I also looked up what the difference is between marimba and xylophone. And it was too detailed to even mention. It's just, there's just a slight tone.
Is that like the difference between Alligator and Crocodile?
Pretty much, yeah. Right.
Okay.
What is the difference between Alligator and Crocodile?
I think one can go on land and one is just the water. I'm just throwing that out right now.
Did you say one goes on land?
What if by land, two if by sea? I'm not quite sure what the difference. I believe that's the difference. Kind of like a turtle and a tortoise.
I was actually going to bring up that as an example. If you could tell me that one too.
I think turtles can go in the water.
I need to tell her the difference of these.
I think tortoise is a desert dweller, and turtles can go in water. There's something to do with water.
You should confirm this before taking this information
to your
daughter, Russ.
I will certainly do that, and that's good advice, Holly. Thank you.
Hey, we're talking with Russ Borris and having a lot of fun, but sometimes we need to take a break, and that's exactly what we are going to do at this moment.
I hope you had a good break.
It was a great break. Thank you.
Getting back to the KROQ Countdown from 1984 with our special guest, Russ Borris from WFUV.
Okay, so now we move on to a band that is named Spandau Ballet. And this is a song called Only When You Leave. Do you remember this song at all, Russ Borris?
Vaguely, because for me, it's like, it's true and that's it. I mean, and don't get me wrong. True is a beauty. I have, no issues with that. I mean, but yeah, I can't say that I knew this one tremendously. I mean, to me, I always felt like Spandau Ballet on some level was trying to be Roxy Music in, kind of updating to some extent.
They all were.
Yeah, I think so. And there was also, to me, there was like this constant battle of like, who's the next guy? The Spandau Ballet was Tony Hadley and the guy from ABC, Martin Fry. It was like the two of those guys. Mm-hmm. It was like occupying the same space of sort of crooning. Maybe there's a Brian Ferry sort of fashion statement, and trying to, in the movements and I don't know that either one kind of one up to the other. As a whole, I think ABC had better songs. Just case in point right here. Kind of like it's true, and then they had to make some other ones because there was a record, and there was more than one record. But I can't say that I had like a big connection with anything on Spandau Ballet beyond the main song.
What do you think of this, Holly?
I love the song. I was a fan. I am a fan, and that's very interesting, Dave. Though that maybe could be another poll. I never even thought about that, ABC or Spandau Ballet. I agree with Russ in that ABC, for me, better songs. But I also have to say, I love these songs, and I like these songs a whole lot better than I like True. I love the ABC ballads, but I liked less the Spandau Ballet ballads. There were a handful of great Spandau Ballet songs, in my opinion. I do love the song. I like Communication. They had a song called Lifeline. It had a great energy for me. I loved that song. The video for this, Only When You Leave, was so evocative of the 80s, just the styles and the coloring of it. It was sort of reddish, shot reddish. Did you watch it?
I dug the groove in it. And I get where you're going in the energy, because it definitely was something that feels, the music aside, like you're not plucking that presentation and sticking it into 2021 without it being out of place.
Yes, exactly. But I still very listenable for me, the songs themselves.
Yeah,
I'm a fan.
Spandau was still trying, I guess they were trying to pivot and create something different. They played Live Aid, and this was the song that they opened up with. Then they played True, which is the iconic song. It was funny. They played in a 3-song set. They played something that wasn't even released yet. It was a song called Virgin, which didn't even come out until 1986. So they were probably still trying to find their way. This wasn't even on their new album. They played the single, their iconic song, and then a song that's not on this new album that you won't hear for a couple years. But here we go. Here, I know we got a worldwide audience, and this is what we're going to do. And then that's the last we ever heard of Spandau Ballet. Was this something you did, like when you came home from school? Would you put on MTV?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember they got to a point where they had, the exclusive videos. So they would have like the exclusive graphic on there, and we'd go to school and we'd like talk about the list of ones that were actually exclusive and nerd out about that. Yeah, I started nerdy really early.
It happens.
Not great.
No, it's a good thing.
Yes, it is. Now it is, but maybe back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, you had a group of friends, probably. Were you a Dungeons and Dragons guy?
No.
I
was a He-Man guy, a Masters of the Universe guy. That was my big thing. Yeah.
Did you have a poster up there on your wall? What was the Russ Borris?
I had every action figure there was.
Did you?
Every single one. Yeah.
Who'd you gravitate to? Who did you identify with?
If you put it in sort of like, wrestling terms, it'd be the heels. I would definitely be gravitating towards the bad guys because they were just cooler looking.
Always.
As far as the action figures, maybe in the show you always wanted them to lose or whatever because like you're supposed to, I guess, be conditioned to root for the good guy. But if you're playing with the action figures, the bad ones were always cooler. They just had like better weapons or they had better features. You get an example like they had one called Leech, who was like a big suction face, so it would stick to things. Or they had a 2-headed one, and his fist would come out and like really punch guys. So Too Bad, I think was his name or whatever. And then you look at the good guys, and there was a guy whose name was Moss Man, and he was covered in moss. I was like, that's not a trait. There's no skill here. You're like vegetated. Like I don't understand what this is supposed to be.
No kid is saying, I want to be Moss Man. Sorry.
No, definitely not.
Here we go. 67. This is not a dynamic duo. This is the Fab Five. This is Duran Duran. New Moon on Monday. Russ, how much do you love Duran Duran?
I'm going to say this. You can soundbite it if you want to. You can extract this clip for socials. Duran Duran is life. That's it. I will never make an excuse for loving Duran Duran. Never. I mean, I loved those records. And it went past Rio and Hungry Like the Wolf. I think that was starting, that was just scratching the surface because I just think those songs got better as time went on. And, they get so closely linked to the 80s in sort of a negative way as being, one of the big MTV bands and everything. But there were so many good songs in that band's catalog. So I am all about Duran Duran. And New Moon on Monday is kind of Simon doing like his best Bowie, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, without a doubt. Did you watch the video though?
Yes.
Okay. What the hell's going on in there?
Great about I mean, Wild Boys, all these, we're not going to talk so great about the video. To me, it's just about the songs. Yeah. It's always about the songs.
I mean, the video, it's almost like you're more focused on them, and their looks and their hair and their clothing than what is actually going on in the video, or they're on a boat, the story. I can't really tell you the story about a lot of, from a lot of the video. I mean, Rio, I can't even tell you the story. I just know they're on a boat.
They're secret agents in this, or they're solving some sort of, they're Viva la Resistance or something. Something's happening there. And then they're all dancing in the end. And, which I read, they can't even watch the end of that video where it's just them dancing to their song and, trying to pretend like they're having fun.
It's incredible to me to think of the budget or, just that these videos were like, we're going to make these little movies and stuff. And it's like, guys, you're wasting so much time.
I know.
But it mattered then. It did, because if that video got on MTV and, it was an exclusive rotation, maybe, that's a big deal.
It was because obviously, young Russ Borris was watching MTV and every video on there made an impression on him.
We expected this from Duran Duran, and anything less would have disappointed us.
This was not bedroom pop. This was,
Andy Taylor and Nick Rhodes, they declared this as their least favorite Duran Duran video.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite, Russ? Who was your favorite Duranie? Or you were a Duranie. As a Duranie, who was your favorite?
I think Simon was cool. So I think that's where he kind of focused. To me, one of the best moments was, again, to take it off where we are centered here. A few years ago, Duran Duran played South by, and NPR had done their usual showcase, and they were kind of the band that was playing after, so it wasn't quite in the NPR live stream, but they were like the headliner at Stubbs at South by, and so we made it was so crowded in there, so it was basically like if you're leaving, you're gonna have a really hard time getting out. So we were just planted for like 4 or 5 hours up on the dirt hill, and when they hit the stage, you're like, oh, where are they gonna start? What's the first song for Duran Duran? They went with A View to a Kill. And I was like, this is so badass. That was a gutsy choice to come out of the gate from this crowd. Like, I don't know how many people knew them or whatever, or just how many were just nostalgia, or then, sort of the younger end of the crowd. But I was like, it's kind of cool. I was into it.
I got to say, this was not one of my favorite at the time, not one of my favorite Duran Duran songs, but listening to it again in preparation for this, I really like this song.
Yeah. Did you have this album, Russ?
Yeah, I think at the time it was. I might have had a few albums and a couple of cassettes. I don't think I necessarily had one or too many of the other. So kind of grab things here and there. But yeah, I had a Duran Duran cassette in the mix.
Actually, what was your first purchase? Do you remember? Because usually that's kind of like a tough choice you have to make, where you use your own money to.
I think the one that I bought first was Cargo from Men at Work, if I remember correctly.
Fine choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
And since we're on the topic, first concert,
the one that I want to admit, or the one that I want to say? All right.
Yes. The one you want to, the one you are loath to admit.
Jimmy Buffett.
Did you go with the family, or was this with friends?
I went with a friend of mine because it was like this weird curiosity. I had taken a trip to visit some family in the South one summer, and I ended up going on some fishing trip where another family friend played Jimmy Buffett in the car the entire time. And I was like, this weird ass song about a cheeseburger and why don't we get drunk and screw? I was like, what is this guy? Like, it just became so ridiculous. So the local amphitheater, near us, he was coming like one summer, and me and like this, friend of mine were like, maybe we should just go and see what this is. And it was pretty ridiculous. So yes, that is technically the first concert.
Even how old were you then?
15.
You went as like as a joke, like, let's just see what this is, and let's just mock everyone who goes to this.
Do we like this? I think it was a part. Do we actually like this, or is this just ridiculous? And I think it was somewhere in the middle.
That's funny. That's what
it was kind of fun, but it was also like, this is one of the weirdest crowds I've ever been around, for sure.
I can't even imagine being a 15-year-old at a Jimmy Buffett concert.
Right.
Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah. Well, you told me to tell the real story.
No, what was the one where you felt like, oh, these are my people? Where you stepped inside the arena?
In the Metallica show. Yeah, the Metallica show was definitely more of my people at the time.
Did you consider yourself a metalhead at all, or what?
Oh, I was 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Every one of those bands.
What were your favorites? So
Megadeth.
Okay.
Judas Priest, all the big ones for sure.
Did you see that? Have you seen Iron Maiden? And
Iron Maiden several times. Yeah. Priest a couple times. I think I only saw Megadeth once. Dio. I mean, Ronnie James. Good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, that man, that voice in that little tiny body, unbelievable.
Did you gravitate towards hair metal at all, or was that?
Yes.
Did you really still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So me at that time was definitely all in. I mean, it wasn't every one of those bands. It was kind of picking and choosing. Like some of them I just thought were better. Some of them were like super. I never got into Poison, for instance, but I did like Warrant records. So it wasn't necessarily a rhyme or reason, because you would see them all in the same lane, but one would appeal and one wouldn't.
You were discriminating.
Yeah, not intentionally. That's how it played out.
Discriminating taste.
But I mean, that stuff was everywhere. It was impossible to not be, because it was even into, probably early 92, that stuff was still the fabric of MTV until Smells Like Teen Spirit, and then it was erased the next day, more or less.
There's another poll, Warrant or Poison.
Janie Lane wrote way better songs.
So when did you make your left turn where you're like become the indie guy that you are now?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's always been an evolution, really.
Yeah. Was there a band? What was the turning point? What was the band where like, or was it Nirvana? Where it's like, oh, wait a second.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's when it started to shift more into that world. Like I walked into it. I didn't leave the other one at all. I stayed with so many of those other bands. So if Iron Maiden had a new record or Megadeth had a new record or Queensryche had a new record, like I was still getting those, but then I was supplementing it with these new bands that I didn't necessarily know about beforehand.
And was it still MTV, or where were you hearing your new music? Was there a radio, like an alternative radio station that you?
Yeah, you had two. You had HTG, which was the modern rock station in Jersey. So that was big to learn about that stuff. And then the station that runs out of Seton Hall University is WSOU, and that was the metal station.
Yeah.
So that was just a treasure trove of great stuff.
It wasn't the most professional run radio station as you listened to it, even as a kid.
Well, at that point when I was listening to them, I was probably a little bit older, and but they were pro. They were, yeah. Was it the most pro? Maybe not, but it was the most appealing and the most real sounding and stuff that's definitely turned you on to music that you hadn't heard before. I mean, I just remember watching their TV commercial and seeing, Head Like a Hole for the first time, and it was like, what in the hell is that? And how awesome is that? And how quickly can I go find it? Because that was pretty life-changing. The first Nine Inch Nails record.
Did you have long hair? Did you have high hair?
Yes.
Did you have?
I had a very long mullet.
You did have the mullet. Good job.
Yeah, it was very long.
Okay, we're going to request that.
Lasted too long. Not just the length was long, but it stayed with me longer than it should have. I think one day my wife was just kind of like, before we were married, she was just like, you should probably move on now.
Nice. All right, we're still counting down hits and we're getting nowhere. This is number 66. Julie Brown's "The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun." Much like Blazing Saddles, this could not be made today. But what's your opinion of Julie Brown? I mean,
I thought Julie Brown was really funny.
Right.
She was on MTV all the time, as opposed to, downtown Julie Brown. So it was funny that they had two Julie Browns at the same time. But non-downtown was always super funny and engaging watch. So when she would do her skits and sketches and stuff like that, I was all in because I just thought she was really entertaining. And I liked this song at the time for the same reason, because it was silly and fun. But going back and watching it, it was like, I can't even sit through it now.
Right?
It was so uncomfortable in every way. I was just like, wow, this has not aged.
Who knew how life was going to go, though, watching this, and you think it's so funny. In life, I mean.
Right.
Because you're just thinking, it's spoofing Carrie, and it's just making the silliness out of it and all that. And it was fine. But like, I seriously, I watched it for about 50, 60 seconds, and I had to shut it off. I couldn't do it.
Same, I know.
She had another one, Because I'm a Blonde. Yeah, she mocked.
That could probably hold up.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Still very funny.
Might have to watch that video too.
The one who does hold up is still Weird Al. And 1984 was the year of Weird Al in 3D. And this contained some smash hits. You had your Eat It, you had your King of Suede, you had your I Lost on Jeopardy. I mean, stone cold classic.
This is my guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, why isn't he in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I just don't understand it.
Because people don't appreciate this art. It's ridiculous. First of all, it's the greatest cover band that's ever been.
Right.
Because they can do everything, because they're just ridiculous talents. And, Al, like a lot of these guys over the years, has really taken his craft seriously. So if you go back, like, he sings now and just has worked at it. So like, he'll actually do like vocal exercises. You see, like, he's trying to really take this seriously. And instead of the beginning where it was like, all right, we're just going to go in the bathroom. I'm going to take my accordion. We're just going to record this song. So there's been an evolution there, but I just always appreciated how much fun these records were, even though, okay, like Kurt Cobain had that concern about, like, are you going to cover me? Is it about food? Like all the songs, there were so many, he got a little bit of a rap of doing like songs about food all the time, but there's so many fun songs. And for me, I think it started Dare to Be Stupid, but went back to In 3D. And the first record's okay. There's a couple of like gems on there for sure. Like Another One Rides the Bus is still like one of the greatest things ever. But In 3D, Dare to Be Stupid, Polka Party. I went in through those records. And so Weird Al was like another big thing. I remember like Christmas morning waking up and like Dare to Be Stupid was under like my little tiny tree in my room. And I was like, this is the greatest Christmas. Weird Al has come.
Have you invited him
Yes.
into the studio, into the FUVs?
I have not. There's the next dream is
Right.
getting the Weird Al session interview, whatever. That hasn't happened, but I'm going to say yet.
So another fun act that we still love, Cyndi Lauper. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Also a fan of the WWF. So she helped promote that. She and her and Captain
Rock
Lou.
and wrestling.
Yeah, it's back. It is back to wrestling. I mean, she was great in that. She was able to play a role of like, like, I can't believe what's going on. This is crazy. Captain Lou, what are you doing? And she'd be in the ring and have to beat up someone with whatever she had, and it was a lot of fun. I think she just wanted to have fun.
There's definitely no MTV and there's no 80s if there's no Cyndi Lauper, because her presence there is just, it's so impactful. In terms of the wrestling, I mean, that really, her connection to it helped bring in a whole, different audience. So the rock and wrestling connection just helped both of those worlds. And, the MTV, her music, rock fans, the wrestling fans, they all kind of connected there. And in terms of Captain Lou, I mean, that's kind of a different level of badass to pierce your face with rubber bands. I mean, it's not your everyday.
No.
So I don't think enough credit is given to that guy.
Not been seen since.
I did want to mention before I forget, because this is a funny point. The video for Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Do you know who her boyfriend is in that video? The guy who comes to pick her up. He has flowers.
Yeah.
He's also wearing a tuxedo.
Right.
Because why would you not wear a tuxedo to a random date?
And that person is
Steve Forbert.
Oh, really?
Is her date.
You're right. Wow, you're right. You're right. Now I see the face, and wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how that happened.
That video changed for me as a girl, I guess. That video changed everything. It was like a visual. It was such eye candy. There was the dress, the way it was shot, Captain Lou, her. It was really our first big look at her.
And her mom. Her mom.
Yeah, her mom is in.
Yeah.
We got to know everyone. She had like a whole cast of characters. It was really kind of cool that she had this entourage, and yet we kind of knew everyone. She was still is a lot of fun.
She didn't write this though, did she? Isn't this a cover?
Yeah, with like a reggae song, I believe, right?
You're right. Wait, it was written by this. It was this guy, Robert Hazard.
Yeah, that's the Escalator of Life guy.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Hold on. What is the Escalator of Life?
You don't remember Escalator of Life, Robert Hazard?
No. Please.
Shopping at the Human Mall. I think that was the line. Or something. It's so terrible.
All right, here we go. Something else to
go
post.
Back and listen to
All right, this is great. See, we're learning as well. I like this.
Right.
Let's move it along here. Number 64, Simple Minds, Speed Your Love to Me. Now, I posted in our cheat notes that this song had like an arena rock type feel, and you kind of felt like it just, even though this wasn't a big song, you felt like this was going to be a band that was going to escalate and going to be one of the biggest bands of the 80s. They did, of course, go on to have a couple big singles, but not huge. There were a number of bands like this. There was also like The Alarm and Big Country that you thought were going to be big. What did you think of Simple Minds? Where were you?
I think Simple Minds was just probably the Breakfast Club, and that was the big association. Beyond that, I can't say that it necessarily resonated with me. Just the huge song. It was just like, oh yeah, these John Hughes, and how those movies became so ingrained in that time frame. I looked at U2 as the probable big, the most likely to be the big band of that. Hearing, and watching the video for Pride, for instance, and just feeling like that was just a larger sound to me, but I just liked In a Big Country more. I just thought that was the best song of the bunch, and that was, even though I couldn't tell you any other songs in that band's catalog, that was just the only one that I cared about.
I know Holly loves Simple Minds. What do you think of this song?
I love the song. I love this whole album. I think we may have talked about it last week also. I love this album, but I do think Simple Minds are on a, not necessarily talent wise, but just as a band with their success, I would put them up a tier, I think.
Are they still alive and kicking? I don't even know.
I did like Alive and Kicking.
They had, you think about it, go back and look at the catalog.
Sanctify Yourself's pretty good.
Yeah.
That is a great song.
Right. They had some great songs, but it never really escalated.
I guess everybody does associate them with Breakfast Club and Don't You Forget About Me, but that to me wasn't even my favorite. I mean, Sanctify, that's one of my favorite Simple Minds songs. I put them up a level. I don't know that I would ever, like you say, you predicted them to be a big arena band.
Still love this song.
Speed Your Love, not my favorite song, but yes, I love this. And I had the album, and yes, I would still listen to it.
Okay. Number 63. Speaking of like movie projects, when you hear this song, Tones on Tail, the song is called Go. It really kind of exemplifies the 80s in a way. And I think it was in Grosse Point Blank. And I think you just kind of play this song and it sounds like everything you would think of like the wacky 80s and, wearing like a checkered shirt and just everything. It's being so new wave. This is like the ultimate new wave song. What do you think, Russ? What's going on with this?
There's a few too many yah-yahs in it for me, I think.
Yeah? Yeah?
Just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say that it definitely was something I was super into. I mean, that world, if you're going to go in that goth direction to some extent, I mean, a Bauhaus song here and there, a Killing Joke song here and there. And, if you want to lump Susie in that sound, I guess you can, that would be more into. But as a whole, I wasn't super goth guy. I know some people consider The Cure to be a goth band. I don't. Yeah.
This is an ongoing discussion between Dave and I.
All right, where do you guys fall on that?
Oh, they're a pop band to me.
I know that they have some pop songs, but I will never consider them a pop band.
She refuses to recognize any top 10 songs of theirs.
But do you consider them to be a goth band?
Gothier than pop.
Okay. So then not.
See,
really.
I can't be committal.
I said,
they were goth. They were goth when you first their early albums were more goth than their later albums. They got a little less gothy, but I will never admit to them being pop. Friday I'm in Love is not one of
Well, like I said, it's a Taylor Swift song. Taylor Swift should cover that song.
Out of the catalog. That's a good record aside from that song. I think it's an underrated record in the catalog, but I wish didn't mean to do that, but I did. I kind of wish that song wasn't there. I'm glad for them. I'm glad for Robert for that success. But yeah.
I agree.
Kind of annoying.
Disintegration is the greatest album of all time. That was like from South Park, right? Wasn't that the...
I'm not going to argue that.
Okay.
It is a great album, but even great albums, you can remove a song.
You would never... Okay.
You would never remove Friday I'm in Love.
No. It's pop perfection. It's,
Pop perfection doesn't come
It is. It disguised as a goth song. That's why it's so brilliant. But like any teenage girl...
Social media right there.
Like I was going to say, any teenage girl or 50-year-old man can cry to Letters to Elise.
Yeah, we can. No, there's another whole.
All right, fine, whatever. Hey, you like ska?
No.
Come on, get your elbows moving.
No,
dude.
Never my world. I'd scratch my head. To me, ska is not unlike the late 90s where swing and came into play, and I was like, this is a fad, everybody, just let it go. It's just for Gap commercials. It's just gonna, give it a couple of months, it'll be gone. We don't have to talk about this anymore. But that was ridiculous when that was trying to make that some sort of trend that was going to have any kind of lasting power. Granted, ska has certainly become more of a fabric of some kind of regular inclusion over the last number of decades, but I don't think there's a ska band. Like I if you want to say the Specials, you want to call the Specials a ska band, I can get behind that.
What about Madness?
Not much else.
Madness? All right. Yeah, you don't want to go one step beyond or anything like that?
Maybe a couple songs.
All right. We bring this up because number 62 is the Untouchables, an LA band, and the song is called Free Yourself. I'm sure this was just played in Los Angeles. I don't know how.
I never heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No idea what this was.
But it's catchy, right? You wanted to stand up and you wanted to move around.
I did not.
It didn't make you want to Okay.
No. I was like, hey, we should go to number 61. That was kind of what I thought.
Oh.
You're entitled. You get one of those. When
yeah, you get one free pass.
There it is.
Holly, what did you think of this? We'll step just for a second. We'll stay on this for a sec.
I had forgotten about this song. I actually like ska enough, but it would never be my format of my style of music of choice. But I liked the song. It was fun to revisit. I don't think I'll be putting it on any of my playlists necessarily, but it was fun to hear again. Although when I saw the title Free Yourself, I can't help but think of
And the Rest Will Follow. or free your mind, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, I
Did you
kept
just try
thinking
to
free your
unvogue
mind.
this and wrongly do so?
I did. That's what I thought. But it was nice to hear again. I don't need it in my life.
Okay, fine. We will move.
And you, Dave? Do you?
I did. I think I actually bought this record because I got to dance. I mean, guys got to dance once in a while. But
I never thought I would hear you say that.
What?
This guy has got to dance every once in a while. Is what he's saying.
That's right. I want to dance with somebody. Let's just move on, please.
On to 61.
Come on. Number 61. Oingo Boingo. Something isn't right. And this is a song, not on an album, but on a soundtrack. Not just any soundtrack, but the Bachelor Party soundtrack. That's right. Tom Hanks, Bachelor Party. This was a thing. We love these.
It's amazing that Tom Hanks is the lead. But I think at the time, the conventional wisdom was that Adrian Zmed was still going to be like the bigger star.
Yeah.
People should have realized upon Grease 2 that was not likely going to happen.
It might have. He had a look.
He had a look.
Yeah.
We all had a look. Russ had a mullet. That was his look.
It's true.
Do you remember Bachelor Party? We won't talk about the song.
Oh, please, not 1 minute longer or Milt will come for you. I mean, that was
right.
Yes, I could recite. I actually just did recite a line. Yes, I do remember Bachelor Party. Again, probably would not have aged well if we watch it now, but super fun at the time.
Kind of like watching Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun.
Yes.
Yeah, these 80s, crazy. Like, Revenge of the Nerds. Can't watch that. That's a terrible movie now, looking at it.
Yeah.
But so much fun at the time.
So, right, all these movies were so much fun. Porky's, fun.
Oh my God.
This is what we watched as teenagers. I mean, this.
Could you imagine our kids watching this now? Our kids are just programmed to know it's,
Oh, they recognize it immediately. You'll, how inappropriate it is. I tried playing a few Mel Brooks movies for my kids. This isn't funny, Dad. Animal House wasn't funny. My daughter goes to University of Oregon, and that's where Animal House was filmed. So I showed my daughter the movie, and she's like, nope.
Didn't work.
It did not work. No, this did not connect. So, get ready, Russ, for mass disappointment when you try and revisit these movies you love.
Yeah. We watched Back to the Future, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, it was okay. It's like, what do you mean this is okay? This is the greatest movie ever made. What do you mean it's okay?
Do you end up identifying more with the parents now? Like, why are you?
Yeah.
Right? That's the scary thing about watching these movies now. Like Ferris Bueller, why are they letting him go out? Who's watching this? What's happening?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's incredible what you look back and you think about the things that you did at a certain age as a kid, and you're like, there is no chance in hell you're letting your own child do that same thing at even probably slightly older age. You're just like, boy, does that dynamic change. But we lost Oingo Boingo somewhere in this.
I know.
I had so many thoughts going on in my head. To your movie point and your music point, a negative movie point, a positive music point. My kids laughed when we showed them Jaws when they were younger.
I did too. Real. They thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
had your 13-year-old seen a concert yet?
My son had gone to see his first show that I dragged him to when he was 7. We went to the Stone Pony and saw the Pixies at the summer stage, so the outdoor. So it wasn't inside, because if it was inside, it would have been a whole other animal.
Yeah.
It would have been a little bit too much, but it was outdoors. So he just sat up on my shoulders for 6-7 songs until there was a little too much smoke around us, and I was like, I gotta get him out of here. But that was nice. I don't think he cared, but it was nice to just have him there for it. I was going to see Black Sabbath in the last tour, and a friend of mine who was supposed to go couldn't go at the very last minute. So I was basically going by myself, and Lucas came with me and basically just lied down across my lap for 5-6 songs until he was so bored. He was just like, can we leave? I was like, do you not know what's happening right now? The greatest band that has ever been is it. And I'm seeing it, and you're making me leave.
Did you leave?
Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to fatherhood.
Because kids rule our lives.
Yes.
Stupid kids.
Yeah.
God.
Dave had to leave a concert when his father wanted to leave.
When my first show, because he didn't want to be stuck in traffic. I was ELO with and Journey was the opener, and like,
oh dude,
and
you
like
had to leave.
That was my like 5 5 songs in, it's like, let's go, Dave. Okay. It's like there's traffic. We got to get, because he had no idea when it was going to end, when the show was going to end. Of course, it was going to go on for another 2 hours, but he had to.
I was going to say, you could. I understand the traffic thing if you're trying to bail a little bit early. I get it. 5 songs in seems a tad early.
He was, well, yeah.
Hey, Hooli, what if you miss an encore?
We just.
You can't leave early.
We did.
Even at this age.
I saw the Bee Gees. We left early. Did you see the documentary? Have you seen that?
You left early.
They have the overhead shot of Dodger Stadium, like them performing, and you could see my dad lifting me. Yeah, you could see me like walking up the aisle to get to our car because we left early. So that was our thing. And then, but later in life, we used to leave baseball games early too. But later, like after I complained, like I guess probably when I was in my 20s, I gave him enough guilt that whenever we went to a game, he stayed until the end, as long as I drove. He was fine with it. But anyway, that's my situation. Go ahead.
So do you want to? I do have a question about Oingo Boingo for Russ. Did you Oingo Boingo being an LA band? How familiar were you with them back in the day?
The 2 most noteworthy songs for them, again, tied to soundtracks. So for me, it was Dead Man's Party, in use in Back to School, and then Weird Science.
Yeah.
I mean, those are great songs. Like Danny Elfman got it, where it's like, he figured out this little niche, and there's such a cinematic quality to what he did. Yeah, there's definitely something really special about his headspace. Oingo Boingo is a tremendous band name and totally perfect for that time and that weird kind of alternative land. This song I didn't know quite as much as I probably heard it once or twice, but those other ones really stood out more to me.
Oh, they were so much more than their soundtracks. So Oingo Boingo and Danny Elfman. I mean, they had some great, aside from him being a brilliant, composer of TV music, film music, great albums. Only Allowed is probably one of my favorite albums.
All right. Wow. We hit all 10 songs. Finally. I should note that as we looked at your bio, it says that you're approaching 20 years at WFUV.
This is the 20th year this year. Yeah, it'll be 20 years in September.
That's just not any September. Can you tell me what it was like as Russ Borris steps into the FUV studios in September of 2001? What's going on? And what you weren't doing the job you probably had signed up for initially.
Correct. When I got hired, I was assistant music director, and it wasn't technically my first day, but we had a few days before I was starting was one of these like boat parties we would do and sponsor in the city. So I went to like a Martin Sexton show or something and just kind of, hung out with a couple of the staff and tried to, kind of learn some of the other aspects of what we were going to do. So then the first day I started, kind of getting settled into this very small space in a, 3rd floor in a, building in Keating Hall that was super narrow, and coming from a world where I had, my own office and we had a smaller station, but this was like, okay, I'm sharing a little nook of a desk and sharing it with a student who's here like part of the time. I was like, what did I just get into? This is weird. I thought this was like a powerhouse. So it was a little head scratching in the beginning, and fast forward a few days where I'm really nowhere settled into even what I'm doing it or responsible for. I mean, I know what I'm going to do listening to music. I know that's part of it, but I haven't really, everything hasn't been fully defined yet. And the woman who was working at the front desk came to the, this back area of the station and just said, a plane hit one of the towers. And I didn't even know how to react. I was just like, that doesn't sound good. I didn't even know what she was really saying. It was hard to even comprehend. So, as we sat that morning and watched everything evolve, it was kind of incredible to see how quickly everybody pivoted. Our morning host, who at the time had a pretty significant news background, just stayed on the air all day through the other, DJs that were on, giving info. And, I just kind of had to really acclimate myself to the music library that was there that I didn't know. I knew a lot of songs, but I didn't know where everything was, because it was all these physical CDs and drawers that I had not really gone through yet. And it was just like, just grab stuff and handing it to the jock, like, just play this, and trying to find stuff that was kind of appropriate could be at the time. That was a trial by fire kind of moment where you just got thrown in there. And that was my 5th day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That was really, obviously, life-changing for everybody. But for me, having been in the same job for a few years and then going to New York and working in New York and thinking whatever that's going to be and whatever aspirations you're going to have centered around New York City, and have that be your largely the introduction to it, to look back and think I've been 20 years there since then is surprising, because I think at that moment, we had plans to move closer and all this stuff. And, my wife and I were like, yeah, maybe we're just going to keep it here for a little bit. And so people joke, because I have such a large commute, that I still live, in Jersey, and that's a good ride to the Bronx every day.
Have you been to the studios, or what's going on?
I have not been to the studios since March.
Yeah.
So that's a weird world. Yeah.
There's no reason to, they don't want you going there at all.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's been decided that, the station about a decade ago moved to a different area of the building. It's in the basement. So it's a better facility, and it was kind of built from the ground up, but there are no windows in said basement. So ventilation is a concern.
Oh, gotcha.
Obviously, and there's just seeming like we can get this done, and we found a way to get this done. So we'll just keep everybody safe, unless you've got to go in for a particular reason. An engineer might pop in once a week just to work on some stuff. Somebody will go in to grab, checks from the membership department or finance. But for the most part, staff is home. DJs are at home. It's unbelievable that this is how the radio station has run for going on a year. It's certainly a testament to us all. And how we've been able to figure it out. And so I certainly applaud everybody involved, but it is wild. If you would have told me last February that this is what we would have been doing, it would be hard to believe.
Thank you so much, Russ. This was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this, as always. I mean, I'm always looking for an excuse to bring in friends and talk with people about music. And so it's kind of why we do this thing.
Yeah, this was a blast.
Fun.
I certainly appreciate the invite. Good to meet you, Holly.
It was very nice to meet you. Thank you again for doing this.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This was really fun.
Yeah, we'll see you. Listen to you on the air. Looking forward to it. WFUV, the alternate side.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, Fridays from 9 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. Give a listen. And it also streaming on WFUV.org. So,
that's correct.
Yeah, always listen. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Russ. Take care. See you around. All right, wrapping up our talk with Russ Borris. He is the music director at WFUV in New York. And that was a lot of fun. Don't you think, Holly?
That was super fun. Thank you. It was such a pleasure hanging out with him virtually.
Yeah, Russ has a couple opinions about certain bands, what they should, what they shouldn't do. So it's always fun touching on many different topics. But you might be saying to yourself, wow, that was a great podcast. They talked about the music. That was spectacular. Russ is amazing. Where can I hear the music? Well, it's an easy fix. There's this thing called Spotify, and we are putting together piece by piece, chunk by chunk, this KROQ playlist. You can find it on our website, wddimpodcast.com. Check us out over on social media. You can sign up for our newsletter at our website. Where else can they find us, Holly?
On Facebook at What Difference Does It Make Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter at WDDIM Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You won't be sorry.
All right. So thanks to Pantheon Podcasts, as we are a proud member of their family. And thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in. And until next week, this is Dave.
This is Holly.
Check you later.
Over and out.